Ladies and gentlemen, dreamers and doers, skeptics and strivers, let me ask you a question that might sting a little. Where were you on January 1st, 2026? What promise did you make to yourself? Did you swear that this would be the year you finally launched that business, drop those 30 pounds, master that skill, fix that relationship, or break that soul-crushing habit? Now, be honest. How many of you have already let that promise slip through your fingers like sand? We are barely a few months into 2026, and the graveyards of good intentions are already overflowing. Today, I want to talk about something uncomfortable. I want to talk about failure, not the dramatic, spectacular, headline-grabbing kind of failure. I want to talk about the quiet, creeping, almost polite failure that most people will experience this year. Because here is the raw, unvarnished truth. Most people will fail in 2026, not because the year is cursed, not because the economy is against them, or the algorithms changed, or the world got harder. Most people will fail for reasons that have nothing to do with luck and everything to do with choices they make while they are busy making excuses. So let me walk you through the anatomy of that failure. And perhaps, if you are brave enough to listen, you can be the exception. First and foremost, most people fail in 2026 because they are addicted to the idea of starting, but terrified of the act of finishing. We live in an era of endless initiation. Every January, every Monday, every first of the month is a ritual of rebirth. You buy the notebook, you download the app, you write the vision board, you tell your friends, you feel that dopamine rush of possibility. But then comes day 4. Then comes the first setback. Then comes the boredom. And what do? You abandon ship and look for a new beginning. You tell yourself, well, that wasn't the right approach anyway, and you pivot to something shinier. In 2026, the attention economy is more ruthless than ever. Your phone is a slot machine of distractions. Social media feeds you a constant stream of people who seem to have succeeded overnight, and your brain, hungry for that same instant gratification, gives up the moment real work is required. The person who fails in 2026 is the person who confuses motion with progress. They are busy, but not productive. They are active, but not committed. They start 10 things and finish 0. And they wonder why, come December, they are exactly where they started. Let me be blunt. Finishing is a muscle, and most people have let it atrophy. Finishing means staying with the boring middle of the project when the novelty has worn off. Finishing means showing up on a rainy Tuesday when no one is clapping for you. Finishing means accepting that 90% of success is just stubborn persistence through the valley of disappointment. In 2026, the gap between those who succeed and those who fail is not talent. It is not intelligence. It is not even hard work, because many failing people work very hard. The gap is the ability to tolerate discomfort. The failing person runs from discomfort. The succeeding person leans into it and says, this is the price, and I am willing to pay it. The second reason most people will fail in 2026 is that they have outsourced their sense of direction. Look around you. We are drowning in advice. Every podcast, every TikTok influencer, every LinkedIn guru has a formula. Do this, not that. Here are 5 habits of billionaires. Wake up at 4 a.m., cold plunges, carnivore diet, manifestation, hustle, culture, quiet quitting. The noise is deafening. And what happens when you listen to everyone? You end up following no one, least of all yourself. The average person in 2026 is like a ship with 100 rudders, spinning in circles, going nowhere. They change strategies every 2 weeks. 1 week, they are all in on crypto. The next week, they decide real estate is the only path. The week after that, they are convinced that AI will solve all their problems. They are constantly chasing the latest hack, the newest shortcut, the secret trick that will unlock everything without the pain of consistent effort. But here is the brutal truth. There are no shortcuts in 2026. The algorithms have changed, but human nature has not. Success still requires clarity. It requires you to say no to 1,000 good ideas so you can say yes to one great idea. It requires you to ignore the noise and commit to a path even when it is unfashionable. Most people fail because they refuse to choose. They want to keep all options open, and in doing so, they commit to none. They dabble, They sample, they taste test life, and then they are surprised when they have built nothing substantial. In 2026, the most dangerous word in your vocabulary is everything. The most liberating word is no. Learn to say it. Learn to ignore the gurus. Pick one thing, just one, and pursue it with the ferocity of a starving wolf. Everything else is a distraction. Third, and this is critical, most people will fail in 2026 because they have confused knowledge with action. This is an epidemic. You see it everywhere. People hoard courses like dragons hoard gold. They have bought the master class, downloaded the PDF, highlighted the chapters, taken the notes. They feel productive. They feel educated. They feel like they are making progress. But let me ask you, what have you actually built? What have you shipped? What have you failed at publicly? Because until you have applied what you know nothing. The world does not pay for knowledge. The world pays for applied knowledge. The world pays for results. You can have a PhD in entrepreneurship and still be broke if you never start a business. You can have a library of fitness knowledge and still be unhealthy if you never put on your shoes and go for a walk. In 2026, the gap between knowing and doing is wider than ever because we have infinite access to information. You can learn anything in an hour, but doing takes days, weeks, months. Doing exposes you to risk, to embarrassment, to failure. So most people hide in the library of learning. They say, I'm still researching. I'm not ready yet. I need one more certification. This is a lie. It is a comfortable lie, but a lie nonetheless. You will never feel ready. The secret that successful people know is that readiness is a myth. You become ready by starting. You learn to swim by drowning a little. You learn to build by building badly. The person who fails in 2026 is the person who is still getting ready while the world passes them by. The person who succeeds is the one who starts before they are ready, makes mistakes, learns in public, and adjusts in real time. Fourth, most people will fail because they are trapped in the prison of perfect conditions. They are waiting for the ideal moment. When I have more money, when the kids are older, when the market improves, when I feel more confident, when I have more time. Let me tell you something brutal. That moment does not exist. It has never existed. It will never exist. Life is a series of imperfect conditions stacked on top of each other. If you wait for perfect, you will wait forever. The year 2026 is not special in that regard. There will always be a crisis. There will always be a reason to delay. There will always be an excuse that sounds perfectly reasonable. The difference between those who succeed and those who fail is not the absence of obstacles. It is the response to obstacles. The failing person sees an obstacle and says, see, this is why I can't. The succeeding person sees the same obstacle and says, how can I go through, around, or over this? In 2026, the world is volatile. That is not news. But volatility is not a reason to stop. It is a reason to become more agile. The person who fails blames the economy, the government, their boss, their parents, their childhood. The person who succeeds takes responsibility. Not because they are superhuman, but because they understand that blaming gives away all your power. As long as you blame something outside yourself, you are a victim. And victims do not build empires. Victims do not transform their lives. Victims wait for someone else to save them, and no one is coming. Fifth, and this might be the most painful one, most people will fail in 2026 because they are surrounded by the wrong people. Show me your 5 closest friends, and I will show you your future. It is a cliche because it is true. If you spend your time with people who mock ambition, who normalize mediocrity, who make excuses look elegant, you will become one of them. It is not a matter of willpower. It is a matter of environment. You cannot soar like an eagle if you are nesting with turkeys. The people around you shape your standards. They shape what you believe is possible. They shape what you complain about. They shape your definition of a good day. In 2026, many people are lonely, and instead of seeking better company, they settle for any company. They scroll through social media, comparing their behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel, and they feel like failures before they have even begun. They join echo chambers of cynicism where everyone agrees that trying is stupid and that the system is rigged. And you know what? They are right. The system is rigged. It is rigged against people who give up. It is rigged against people who blame. It is rigged against people who refuse to adapt. But the system is also rigged in favor of those who persist, who network intelligently, who seek out mentors, who join communities of builders rather than complainers. You get to choose your echo chamber. Choose wisely. 6, most people will fail because they have no system, only goals. A goal without a system is just a wish. Everyone has goals. I want to make more money. I want to be fit. I want to write a book. These are dreams, not plans. A system is the daily, boring, repetitive action that makes the goal inevitable. The person who fails in 2026 sets a goal on January 1st and then expects motivation to carry them through. But motivation is a fire that burns bright and fast and dies. Discipline is the slow, steady coal that keeps you warm all winter. Discipline is not about feeling like it. Discipline is about doing it even when you do not feel like it, especially when you do not feel like it. Most people fail because they rely on willpower, and willpower is a limited resource. By 3 p.m., after a day of small decisions, your willpower is exhausted. That is why you need systems. You need to automate your good decisions. You need to design your environment so that the path of least resistance leads to success, not failure. Put your running shoes next to your bed. Delete the food delivery apps. Block the distracting websites before you start work. Schedule your deep work for the time of day when you have the most energy. The failing person says, I just need to try harder. The succeeding person says, how can I make the right thing easy and the wrong thing hard? In 2026, intelligence is not about IQ. It is about designing a life where you cannot help but succeed. 7th, and this is the hidden killer, most people will fail because they are afraid to rest. This sounds contradictory, but hear me out. Burnout is not a badge of honor. The hustle culture of the last decade has created a generation of exhausted, anxious, ineffective people who believe that if they are not grinding every waking hour, they are failing. But the opposite is true. You cannot produce if you are depleted. You cannot create if you are running on fumes. You cannot solve problems if your brain is fried. The person who fails in 2026 is the person who works 12 hours a day, but spends 6 of those hours in reactive, low-value, distracted activity. They confuse exhaustion with productivity. They feel guilty when they take a break, and then inevitably they crash. They get sick. They have a breakdown. They give up entirely. The person who succeeds in 2026 works with intensity, not duration. They understand the power of deep work, of focused sprints, of deliberate rest. They know that the most creative ideas come after a walk, a nap, a conversation with a friend, a night of good sleep. They do not worship busyness, they worship effectiveness. So if you want to avoid failure, stop bragging about how tired you are. Start bragging about how focused you are. Protect your energy like the precious resource it is. Say no to meetings that could be emails. Say no to social obligations that drain you. Say no to the constant ping of notifications. Your attention is your most valuable asset in 2026. Guard it with your life. 8, most people will fail because they have forgotten how to fail. We have raised a generation terrified of mistakes. We have turned failure into a monster, and in doing so, we have paralyzed ourselves. The most successful people in history have failed more times than the average person has tried. They have been rejected, bankrupt, laughed at, and counted out. And they kept going because they understood that failure is not the opposite of success. It is a component of success. Every failure is data. Every no is one step closer to a yes. Every mistake is a lesson that cannot be taught any other way. But in 2026, most people will experience a single setback and interpret it as a permanent condition. They will get one bad review and quit writing. They will lose one client and close their business. They will have one awkward conversation and retreat from connection. They treat failure as an identity instead of an event. They say, I am a failure, instead of I failed at that thing and now I will try something else. This is the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. The fixed mindset believes that ability is static. The growth mindset believes that ability is built through effort and learning. In 2026, the world is changing too fast for fixed mindsets. The people who fail are the ones who cannot adapt, who cannot learn, who cannot tolerate the discomfort of not knowing. The people who succeed are the ones who treat every failure as a tuition payment. They are not afraid to look stupid. They are not afraid to ask for help. They are not afraid to try again differently. Finally, and perhaps most fundamentally, most people will fail in 2026 because they have lost the why. They are chasing goals that are not truly theirs. They are climbing ladders, leaning against the wrong walls. They want to be rich because society says so. They want to be famous because they are lonely. They want to be fit because they hate their bodies, not because they love themselves. And when the why is hollow, the how becomes impossible. When the pain of discipline is not outweighed by the pain of regret, you quit. It is that simple. The people who succeed in 2026 are not necessarily the most talented. They are the ones with a deep, burning, almost irrational reason to keep going when everything falls apart. They are the parents who want to give their children a different future. They are the artists who would create even if no one was watching. They are the entrepreneurs who are obsessed with solving a problem, not just making a paycheck. Their why is so powerful that it transforms the how from a burden into a privilege. If you do not know your why, stop everything. Do not set another goal. Do not start another project. Sit in silence. Ask yourself hard questions. What do you truly want? Not what you think you should want. Not what will impress your ex. Not what your parents told you to want. What do you want? When you find that answer, you will have found your fuel. Without it, you are just a machine running on empty, and eventually you will stop. So here we are. We are barely into 2026, and most people are already on the path to failure, not because they are bad people, not because they are lazy, but because they are distracted, fearful, inconsistent, and disconnected from their own deep purpose. The good news is that failure is not a verdict, it is a feedback. And you can change course right now, today, in this moment. You can stop collecting courses and start taking action. You can stop waiting for perfect conditions and start working with what you have. You can stop blaming the world and start taking responsibility. You can stop hanging around cynics and find your tribe of builders. You can stop exhausting yourself with fake work and start resting and focusing with intention. You can stop treating failure like a tombstone and start treating it like a stepping stone. The question is not whether 2026 will be hard. It will be. The question is not whether you will face obstacles. You will. The question is whether you will be one of the many who fold or one of the few who rise. The door to failure is wide open and it is crowded. The door to success is narrow and it requires you to leave your excuses at the threshold. Which door will you choose? Because the year is still young. The story is still being written. And you, right now, have the pen in your hand. Do not hand it to anyone else. Write your own ending. Make it a masterpiece. Or don't. The choice, as always, is entirely yours. Thank you.